The story starts with Zhao Kaiyao, also called Zhou, a girl who has always been weak in studies but deeply loves painting. Because of her poor grades, she gets into a low-ranked art college. One day, the college announces scholarships sponsored by Gu Weiking, the CEO of You and Me Corporation. When Zhou's name is called, everyone is shocked, including Zhou herself, since her academic record has never been impressive. She even tells her friends that there must be some mistake, but the professor confirms the scholarship is truly hers. Just then, Weiking personally comes to hand it over. Zhou is stunned to see him there, and this moment takes the story back to events from 1 month earlier. A month ago, Zhou had started working part-time at the Mountain Art Gallery Hotel, even though she had no hotel experience. She impressed the supervisor with her honesty, strength, and ability to finish tasks on time. Her real reason for joining was to confess her feelings to her childhood neighbor and longtime crush, Ming Cheng, who was coming to stay at the hotel during Chinese Valentine's Day. Zhou carefully booked a room for him, wrote a love letter, hid a ring with it under his pillow, and happily dreamed of watching the meteor shower together. However, her hopes were shattered when Cheng called and gently told her that he only saw her as a friend. Around the same time, the hotel owner suddenly arrived with his girlfriend, who turned out to be Gu Weiking himself. Zhou had no idea about this. The supervisor ordered her to welcome the boss, while Weiking, wearing a mask, personally cleaned the room Zhou had prepared. It is revealed that Weiking suffers from severe OCD and is extremely allergic to human touch. After cleaning, he throws away everything in the room, including Zhou's letter. When Zhou finds out, she panics. Soon after, Weiking complains that the room is still not clean enough and demands a personal butler to stay with him all day. As punishment, Zhou is assigned to be his 24/7 butler. Using this chance, Zhou secretly enters the room to search for her letter. She finds the room completely rearranged and realizes everything was thrown away. While checking the wardrobe, she accidentally touches Weiking's face. He immediately screams and runs away due to his allergy. Later, he angrily warns her to only appear when called. That night, during dinner with his girlfriend Ren, Weiking recalls that Ren once saved him from falling into a lake, and her touch had not caused any reaction back then. Because of this, he believed she was special and made her his girlfriend. However, Weiking soon begins to doubt Ren. Her touch now causes allergic reactions, forcing him to wear gloves. Through flashbacks, we learn that years of treatment never cured his condition. On a night when he was drunk and depressed, he nearly fell from a bridge, but was saved by a girl whose touch caused no reaction. He lost his locket at the scene. Ren arrived shortly after, so he mistakenly believed she was the one who saved him. But when Ren later fails to recognize the locket, Weiking becomes certain she was not that girl. Meanwhile, Zhou once again sneaks into Weiking's room to find her letter, but is caught hiding in the wardrobe. No matter how much she explains, Weiking doesn't trust her. When they accidentally touch again, his allergy flares up, making him furious. He warns her that if she enters his room again, she will be fired. Soon after, Zhou receives a call from Cheng about watching the meteor shower together. Desperate to retrieve her letter, she asks Ren for help. Ren agrees but asks Zhou to buy contraceptive pills in return, a conversation Weiking overhears. Angered, Weiking orders the supervisor to fire Zhou. When Zhou returns from the store, she finds out she has lost her job. Furious and heartbroken, she decides to wait for Weiking to confront him. She secretly hides in his car, leading to a heated argument when he discovers her. During the chaos, the car crashes. Zhou runs away, but Weiking chases her. They argue, struggle, and search for the letter, but it is nowhere to be found. With the car damaged, the two are forced to walk together to the bus stop, arguing non-stop. Eventually, Zhou apologizes for accusing him wrongly. As the rain clears, they quietly watch the meteor shower together. When the bus arrives, they part ways, both saying they never want to see each other again. Later, Weiking tells his assistant that Zhou was just a poor girl, not a spy or reporter, and allows her to stay at the hotel for the night. Joe returns to collect her belongings and meets Cheng, who lightly scolds her for disappearing. Back home, Viking realizes something shocking. Despite touching Joe many times, he had no allergic reaction. That night, he has a disturbing dream about blood. The next day, he asks his driver to retrieve the items thrown out from the hotel room and finds a ring that perfectly matches the locket from the lake. He starts suspecting that Joe might be the girl who once saved him. Joe later returns to her university and reunites with her best friend Faye, who works part-time as a bartender and often dates rich men. After fighting with her messy roommates, Joe moves in with Faye and her roommate Coop. Soon, Joe is reminded to submit a sketch for a scholarship application. She draws a painting of herself and Viking, which impresses the teacher and is shown to Viking. He recommends her for the scholarship. When Joe thanks him and apologizes, Viking hints that their connection started long before the hotel. Later, Joe finds the locket she lost a month ago in her pocket and feels confused. When she sees Viking passing by, she asks if they have met before. It is revealed that Joe was the girl who saved him at the lake, though she doesn't remember it herself. While buying art supplies, Joe meets Ning, a kind boy who helps her buy expensive paints. Unknown to her, Ning is actually a famous painter she admires. Meanwhile, Viking tells his doctor that Joe is the key to understanding his allergy, and the doctor suggests keeping her close. As their lives slowly intertwine, new relationships and hidden truths begin to unfold. Ning checks the phone number written on the delivery box and calls it. Joe answers, but when he explains that the parcels were mixed up, she thinks he's just joking and scolds him before hanging up. Later, her roommate Coop mentions that a new boy has moved into the apartment upstairs and that delivery people are now sending parcels directly there. Joe suddenly realizes that the boy who called her earlier must be the same one. Faye admits the parcel actually belonged to her, so Joe decides to return it. When they call the number again, the phone rings upstairs. They rush there and meet Ning, who invites them in to look for the box. His house is filled with paintings, giving off a quiet, artistic vibe. While searching, Faye accidentally breaks a ceramic bowl. Ning freezes when he sees the broken pieces and becomes completely silent. Faye casually says it's just a cheap bowl and she'll buy a new one, but Ning doesn't respond. Feeling awkward and nervous, Joe quickly drags Faye away. Faye wants to replace the bowl but has to rush to her bartending job, so she asks Joe to work in her place at the club that night. At the club, Joe runs into Viking, who has booked the place. Afraid he might complain about her, she hides her face, but Viking notices her anyway. Surprisingly, he says nothing and even leaves her an expensive necklace as a tip, making Joe think he must be incredibly rich. While working, Joe overhears two men planning to attack Viking. She quickly warns him and tries to pull him away, but the attackers catch up and a fight breaks out. Although Viking fights back, he starts losing. Joe jumps in to help, but gets injured when a stick hits her hand. Security soon arrives, forcing the attackers to flee. Viking rushes Joe to the hospital and places her in a private room. He thanks her and offers money, but Joe refuses. When he says she can ask for anything, she first requests admission to Cheng's university, which he declines. She then asks him to help her pass art theory, knowing he has strong connections. Viking initially refuses and leaves. The next day, it's revealed that he holds a PhD from the Royal College of Art in London and will be teaching at Joe's university for a few days. He agrees to tutor her so she can at least pass the exam and assigns her a presentation as homework. Later, Viking reviews Joe's presentation at the club. She talks passionately about Shang Ran's paintings, saying she's been a fan for 5 years. This annoys Viking because Shang Ran was once praised more than him, leaving him bitter. During this meeting, Viking once again tests his allergy by getting close to Joe and again, nothing happens. The next day, Joe notices water leaking from Ning's apartment. When he doesn't answer the door, she and Faye enter through the window and find the house flooded. Ning is unconscious in the bathtub, and the water looks red. They panic, thinking the worst, but later learn it's just paint. At the hospital, doctors explain Ning fainted due to low blood sugar from not eating. Faye stays with him while Joe cleans his apartment and discovers the broken bowl carefully stored away. At the hospital, Ning's guardian arrives, Viking's mother. She thanks Faye and explains the bowl's importance. It was made by Ning's grandfather, a famous potter, and after his death, Ning refused to eat from any other bowl. When the bowl broke, Ning stopped eating entirely. She also reveals there was a second identical bowl, though no one knew where it was. Joe feels deeply guilty after hearing this. Later, Viking visits Ning, and it's revealed that he owns the second bowl. A flashback shows that after Ning lost his mother and grandfather, Viking's parents adopted him. As a child, Ning treasured the bowl, but when it fell into a lake, Viking was wrongly blamed and harshly punished. Since then, his relationship with his parents turned cold, and resentment grew between him and Ning. Joe tries desperately to fix the broken bowl but fails. She learns about a place that repairs antiques and goes there, only to find it belongs to Viking. She begs him to fix the bowl. In return, he asks her to be his girlfriend. She refuses, so he demands a kiss instead. After hesitating, Joe agrees to a quick kiss on the cheek, and Viking sends the bowl for repair. Meanwhile, Viking's mother searches for the bowl to help Ning eat again. When she asks Viking for it, he grows angry and says Ning must come and apologize himself. Overwhelmed by old memories, Viking drinks heavily at a club, where Ren appears. He confronts her, accusing her of arranging the earlier attack and warns her to stay away, telling her he now has a girlfriend. When Ren asks who it is, he shows her Joe's photo, shocking her. The repaired bowl finally arrives, and Viking calls Joe over. When she opens it, Viking realizes it's Ning's bowl and intentionally drops it, breaking it again. Joe explodes in anger. Viking then reveals he owns another identical bowl, bought at an auction. To give it to her, he demands a strange ceremony asking her to close her eyes. Suddenly, he kisses her on the lips to test his allergy. Panicked, Joe pushes him away, causing him to crash into his antique collection and destroy it. Joe runs away, but Viking sends her photos of the broken antiques, telling her she must repay the massive cost. Terrified, Joe delivers the bowl to Ning. The moment he sees it, he finally eats, making his mother extremely happy. She thanks Joe, pays her generously, and asks her to look after Ning in the future. Later, Joe learns the antiques were worth millions and feels hopeless. Just then, she receives her scholarship money. Meanwhile, Viking learns Ning has moved into his late father's old studio, the same place Joe is staying. Furious, he says Ning has no right to live there. Joe later returns the scholarship money to Viking, promising to repay everything. Viking coldly tells her that at this rate, it would take her many lifetimes to pay him back. Viking coldly tells Joe that she has no job, no stable future, and no one would marry her while she is drowning in debt. However, he says there is one way out. He offers her a contract where she must obey his orders and work as his assistant. In return, he promises a high salary that would help her repay the loan. He gives her one day to decide. Furious, Joe stops him and accuses him of kissing her without consent, demanding that he take responsibility. Viking brushes it off, calling it a simple experiment, and even asks if it was her first kiss. When Joe refuses to respond, he offers to forgive half of her debt, leaving her to repay the rest. Meanwhile, Viking secretly prepares to evict Ning from the house. When Ning returns home, he finds the lock password changed and receives a message ordering him to vacate immediately. Confused and helpless, he packs his paintings and belongings into a trolley and ends up sitting alone in a children's park with nowhere to go. Joe sees him and realizes he has been thrown out. Feeling sorry for him, she brings him to her apartment. Ning explains everything, and Joe tells the others that she has been paid to look after him. Together, they decide to take responsibility for Ning. Joe's own life is far from easy. Her family is struggling financially, and she regularly sends money home from part-time jobs. Even with her scholarship, The huge loan still weighs heavily on her. Overwhelmed, she questions her fate. At that moment, Ning knocks on her door and quietly says he is hungry. Jo cooks noodles for him, showing her gentle care despite her own troubles. The next day, Jo goes to Viking's office and agrees to sign the deal, knowing she needs money to support her family. Viking seals the contract with a handshake and pulls her closer, telling her she must stay by his side from now on. Her first task as his assistant is to attend a high-profile party with him. Jo spends the entire night memorizing guest details, barely eating or sleeping. The next morning, Viking tells her her real mission is to find Shuai, a powerful fashion company owner whose face no one recognizes. Viking personally does Jo's makeup and chooses an expensive dress for her. At the party, Jo searches carefully for Shuai and finally bumps into a polite woman who matches everything she memorized. Struggling to walk in heels, Jo still follows her closely. Soon, a man recognizes Jo's dress and reveals himself as Viking's uncle, asking if she is Viking's girlfriend. At the same time, Ren appears at the party and deliberately causes trouble by tearing Shuai's dress, pretending it was an accident. Just as everyone's attention turns awkward, Viking steps in and cleverly redesigns Shuai's torn dress on the spot, impressing her greatly. Shuai asks about him and learns he is the man she wanted to meet. Meanwhile, Viking's uncle misbehaves with Jo, leading Viking to push him away. Jo even slaps the uncle, revealing the tense relationship between them. Viking later carries Jo away and praises her for identifying Shuai at the right moment, believing this could lead to a major business partnership. After this event, Viking completely changes Jo's lifestyle. He provides her with expensive clothes and takes her everywhere with him. Soon, people begin calling her Viking's girlfriend, and gossip spreads rapidly at her university. To avoid bad publicity, the university temporarily suspends both of them. Jo becomes anxious, while Viking grows furious, though she stays silent. Later, Viking learns that Shuai admires Shang Ran's artwork and wants him as a designer. This angers Viking because Ning is Shang Ran. Still, for business reasons, he meets Ning and forces him into cooperation, saying his popularity makes him unavoidable. He reveals that his mother already signed a contract for Ning and threatens to expose secrets from Ning's past if he refuses. As these pressures grow, Jo's health begins to decline, and she is left alone at home, quietly struggling. Jo calls Fei Fei, who is shopping at a mall. Fei Fei sends medicine through her boyfriend, but he behaves rudely with Jo. Just then, Ning arrives and protects her. Ning later warns Jo about Viking, saying he is extremely smart and dangerous, and advises her to think carefully about how she ended up in such heavy debt. Troubled by his words, Jo searches online and discovers that the antiques she was blamed for breaking are actually displayed in an exhibition. She realizes the truth: the antiques were fake. Angry and hurt, Jo confronts Viking and accuses him of trapping her with fake antiques. She tears up the contract and refuses his offer when he suddenly declares that he wants to promote her and make her his girlfriend. Jo firmly rejects him and storms off. Viking confidently tells himself that she can never truly escape him. Later, although Jo is allowed back into her classes, rumors about her continue to spread across the university. Cheng casually mentions an intelligent girl he admires, which makes Jo feel uneasy and jealous. When she returns home, she is shocked to find her apartment filled with expensive gifts and flowers from Viking. She demands that he take everything back, but he calmly tells her the gifts are meant for his girlfriend and now belong to her. Not wanting to waste her favorite flowers, Jo decides to give them away to a flower shop. While delivering the flowers on her bicycle, Jo runs into Viking again. He gets close to her, making her nervous, and she loses balance. As they fall, they accidentally kiss. Jo is furious and blames him, while Viking secretly enjoys the moment. He insists on taking her to the hospital, but she refuses. He then suggests being friends and returns her ring, trying to ease the tension. Jo continues working at a club to support her family. Viking overhears her saying she doesn't even have money to eat, so he quietly sends groceries to her home. When Joe confronts him at his office, she misunderstands his intentions and angrily leaves. Following his assistant's advice, Viking apologizes to Joe for the first time and explains that he only sent food because he was worried about her. Realizing his sincerity, Joe finally thanks him. The next day, Viking waits outside her house with a bicycle and takes her to college. He notices her phone's broken screen caused the wrong time and gives her his expensive watch, pretending it's cheap. Fei later recognizes the watch's true value and warns Joe that Viking's feelings are clearly more than friendship. Feeling pressured, Joe decides to return both the watch and the money. Before she can settle things, Joe receives a distressing call from her mother. Loan sharks are harassing her family because her father borrowed money in Joe's name using Viking's reputation. When goons arrive, they find cash in Joe's bag money she didn't even know was there and take it away. Joe realizes Viking must be involved and decides to confront him. Joe meets Viking, who admits he secretly placed the money in her bag after overhearing her call. Though grateful, she refuses his condition of becoming his girlfriend. Even when he offers her a blank check, she angrily throws it back and leaves. Viking, however, confidently believes she will eventually give in. Meanwhile, Fei unknowingly benefits from the situation when Viking's uncle recognizes the rare watch and hires her instantly. Joe soon discovers that Viking paid off her father's debt but still hired goons to scare her family. Furious and betrayed, Joe confronts him at his office and warns him to stay away from her and her family before storming out. Viking stops Joe and stubbornly declares that he will not give up until she becomes his girlfriend. This only makes Joe angrier. She tries to hit him, but his assistant steps in and stops her. Furious, Joe walks away. Just then, she receives a call from her university warning her that her fees are overdue. With no job and mounting pressure, Joe feels completely helpless. Luckily, the club manager helps her find work at another club, where Viking's uncle is present. There, a VIP customer offers her a large sum of money if she drinks with him. Needing money badly, Joe agrees. Viking's uncle secretly records a video and sends it to Viking. When Fei learns about this, Ning rushes to find Joe. Viking arrives, snatches the drink from her hand, and forces her to vomit so she can sober up. Instead of thanking him, Joe explodes in anger, blaming him for ruining her chance to earn money. Joe accuses Viking of destroying her life, getting her fired, making her unable to pay college fees, and troubling her family. She tells him to stay away forever. While leaving, she mistakenly enters the men's changing room, where the manager tries to harass her. Viking arrives in time and beats the man, but Joe misunderstands and believes Viking planned everything to act like a hero. Hurt and furious, she tells him she never wants to see him again. Ning and Fei soon arrive and take Joe away. Viking is left feeling deeply guilty and decides he wants to apologize sincerely. Joe, meanwhile, is depressed because she is jobless and desperate for money. Ning gives her an art gallery card and tells her his aunt has returned and can offer her work. Joe is relieved and grateful. She meets Auntie at the gallery, where Shan Ren's paintings are displayed, and she is hired immediately. At home, Joe remembers that Chung's birthday is approaching and worries because she hasn't prepared any gift. She discusses it with Chu and Mingchang, who promise to help her. The next day, Joe goes to work but unexpectedly sees Viking and learns that the gallery belongs to his family. Viking argues with his mother, insisting on hiring famous artists to increase profit, but she refuses, saying she values talent over money. Their argument turns bitter, revealing their strained relationship. A flashback shows that Viking was rebellious from a young age and drifted further away after Ning arrived. His drinking worried his father deeply. One day, his father collapses and passes away. His mother blames Viking, and despite his efforts to fix their relationship, they always end up fighting. This painful memory haunts him as he sits alone in a park. Joe coincidentally meets Viking there and, for the first time, sees his vulnerable side. He opens up about his pain, and Joe gently tells him that money isn't everything. Touched by her words, Viking sincerely asks to be her friend. Seeing his honesty, Joe finally agrees. Determined to help Joe without using money, Viking learns from Fei Fei that Joe plans to confess to Chung on his birthday. He shows Joe a video where Chung describes his ideal girl: smart, sweet-spoken, short-haired, wearing glasses, and dressed simply. Joe feels disappointed because she doesn't match that image, but Viking promises to help and gives her a full makeover. After the makeover, Joe worries that Chung might actually like Chu. When she asks him indirectly, Chung clears the misunderstanding, saying he only sees Chu as a rival. Feeling relieved, Joe practices her confession at Viking's house. During practice, emotions run high, and they nearly kiss before the assistant interrupts. Finally, Joe prepares Chung's birthday gift and arrives at the party with Viking. Everyone is stunned by her new look, though Chung finds it unusual and soon gets distracted by others. The celebration continues, and when Chu gives Chung a camera as her gift, he is clearly delighted. Joe realizes that her gift for Chung has been accidentally switched with Viking's. When Chung opens the strange, forever alone gift, he feels awkward, and Viking soon understands the mix-up. He rushes back to the party to return the correct gift, only to find Joe completely drunk. Though he asks her to go home, Joe refuses, so he takes her to his place. They drink together, and Joe opens up about her one-sided love. In her drunken state, she suddenly kisses Viking. The next morning, Joe wakes up in a luxurious house wearing different clothes and panics. She confronts Viking, unaware that he is in a live video meeting. Embarrassed, he ends the call and jokingly hints that he changed her clothes, shocking Joe. When she starts hitting him, he quickly explains that the maid helped her change. Relieved, Joe calms down, and Viking drops her at the university. At college, the principal informs Joe that her scholarship has been increased, so her fee problem is solved. Grateful, she calls Viking to thank him. During the call, he tells her that Chung has applied for a job at his company. Joe is surprised but asks Viking to interview him personally. Chung performs well in the interview, impressing Viking, and is hired. Later, Joe overhears Viking talking with Shui and learns that his mother has sold her art gallery shares to Shui, which deeply shocks him. Meanwhile, Joe notices the name Ren on Ning's artwork. When she asks him, Ning hides the truth and says he is just a fan of Shangren. Soon, Joe and Ren start working at Viking's company together. Joe casually calls Viking by his name, but he reminds her to call him boss or president at the office. He then officially appoints Joe as his personal assistant. Around the same time, Viking argues with his mother, warning her that selling the gallery shares will ruin everything. His mother trusts Shui instead and believes Viking will destroy the gallery, not protect it. A flashback reveals that Viking once tried to transfer his inheritance to his mother, but a letter from his father changed his mind. Still, his mother blamed him for her husband's death and left with Ning. This guilt haunted Viking for years, causing stress, nightmares, and his strange allergy. Back in the present, Joe falls asleep at work. Viking gently carries her to rest. She dreams of kissing him by the pool and wakes up startled. Later, when she sees him near the coffee machine, she spills coffee on his face out of shock and runs away in embarrassment. Viking later gifts Joe a necklace and asks her to attend a party with him as his bodyguard. At the event, his uncle invites all of Viking's ex-girlfriends, forcing Viking to escape awkwardly. The uncle grows suspicious of Viking's habit of wearing gloves and notices his allergic reactions. Eventually, Viking admits the truth to Joe. He gets severe allergies when touched by anyone else, and much of his behavior with her began as an experiment. Though hurt, Joe agrees to help him overcome his condition. The truth about the uncle's jealousy also comes out. He has always tried to steal whatever Viking cared about. Joe becomes more protective of Viking, and he moves into the flat above hers. While organizing his things, Joe realizes that Ning is actually Shangren. With Fei Fei's help, Ning finally confesses the truth to Zhou. Tensions rise when Viking asks Ning to leave Zhou's place. His mother arrives, sees Ning injured, and wrongly blames Viking. In anger, she slaps him and accuses him of destroying their family. Heartbroken, Viking leaves and begins hallucinating blood again. Zhou rushes to comfort him and helps him inside. Later, Zhou worries when Viking doesn't open the door and fears the worst, but she finds him bathing and tends to his wounds. Soon after, Zhou learns she must take her final exams with no preparation. With Viking's strict guidance and help from others, she studies hard and completes her syllabus. During this time, Zhou and Viking grow closer, sharing quiet moments, morning walks, and late-night study sessions. As Zhou's birthday arrives just before her exams, Viking avoids a grand celebration so she won't be distracted. Instead, he stays awake all night planning a heartfelt surprise just for her. Viking decorates the house beautifully and surprises Zhou with a birthday cake. When he wishes her, Zhou feels deeply touched and hugs him, thanking him with tears in her eyes. After celebrating quietly, they return to their studies. On exam day, Viking drops Zhou at the center, and thanks to his strict teaching, her exam goes extremely well. Later, Zhou goes to thank Viking, but he is busy planning a surprise birthday party for her with Fei Fei's help. Fei Fei asks him why he is doing so much for Zhou and whether he has fallen in love. Viking admits he doesn't fully understand love, but all he wants is to see Zhou smile. He asks Fei Fei to keep his name hidden, knowing Zhou would refuse if she found out the party was his idea. Fei Fei brings Zhou to a grand hall filled with decorations and guests from school and college. Zhou is overjoyed and decides that she will finally confess her feelings to Cheng at the party. Although this makes Viking sad, he still wishes her luck. On the terrace, Zhou shares her plan with Fei Fei, who misunderstands and thinks Zhou is dating Ning. Zhou clears the confusion, making Fei Fei secretly happy that Ning is still single. Meanwhile, Cheng has his own confession plan. He wears a shirt printed with a scientific formula that secretly spells, "I love you," a puzzle only Chu can solve. Before Cheng can confess, Viking tries to stop him, but during a dance with Ren, Cheng's shirt tears. Chu solves the formula and asks who the confession is meant for. Cheng finally confesses, leaving Zhou heartbroken. Even though Chu explains she doesn't like Cheng, Zhou is too upset and runs away from the party. Crying uncontrollably, Zhou leaves behind one sandal and boards a bus alone. Viking and everyone else grow worried. On the bus, Zhou cries while recalling her memories with Viking. When she reaches the last stop, it starts raining heavily. Viking finally finds her there and tries to comfort her. When she won't calm down, he gently kisses her, which makes her stop crying. He apologizes sincerely and promises never to hurt her again. Zhou stays at his place that night. Later, Zhou tells Viking about her long crush on Cheng, how he once helped her score full marks in math, and how she failed to confess 3 times. The next day, Viking encourages her to confess properly so she can move on without regret. He even returns the confession letter he once claimed he didn't have. When Zhou confesses, Cheng kindly tells her he sees her as a sister and likes Chu instead. Zhou finally accepts the truth, realizes Viking had read her letter, and lets go of her feelings by tearing it up. Zhou thanks Viking for supporting her and promises to repay the money he spent clearing her father's debt. Ning then surprises her by gifting ownership of his paintings to her, which fills Zhou with happiness. Later, Zhou accompanies Viking to the doctor, who explains that his allergy is psychological and linked to his father's death. Because Viking trusts Zhou, he doesn't react to her touch, and staying close to her can help him recover. Determined to help him heal, Zhou begins changing Viking's lifestyle. She wakes him up early, makes rules, and encourages him to face crowds slowly. When he struggles outside, she helps him by blocking noise and guiding him calmly. Gradually, he improves. She even feeds him fast food, surprising him. Confidently, Zhou promises she will help him fully recover. Zhou moves into Viking's house to support him, When he asks her to share his room, she firmly refuses and chooses the guest room instead, setting clear boundaries. Meanwhile, Shui announces she has become the biggest shareholder of the art gallery and demands a collaboration with Shangren's jewelry designs, threatening Wiking's mother's position, setting the stage for the next conflict. Wiking tells Weiing on a call that if he gets his shares, the art gallery will come under his control. He agrees to transfer them only if his mother talks to him directly. That night, Joe finds Wiking playing a game. He asks her to stay with him because he suffers from terrible nightmares. After some playful arguing, Joe brings a blanket, and they end up sleeping on the sofa together. The next day, Joe challenges Wiking to use the public elevator at work. Nervous but determined, he does it, surprising everyone by greeting the employees politely. The news spreads quickly that the cold president finally wished them good morning. Later, Wiking meets his mother and cleverly convinces her to take back her shares from his uncle, promising to transfer his own shares to her. This turns out to be his plan to return full control of the gallery to his mother. As Wiking slowly changes, Joe feels happy seeing his growth. They spend more time together, even watching movies and sharing a room to help his condition. Though Joe feels nervous, she supports him, holding his hand at night to stop his nightmares. Their closeness deepens, and Wiking starts relying on her emotionally. At work and among friends, people begin to notice how special their bond is. Joe denies being in a relationship, but her actions say otherwise. When Wiking calls her home because he's hungry, she rushes to cook for him, making her friends tease her like a caring wife. Confused about her feelings, Joe finally asks Wiking if he feels more than friendship. He admits he has started liking her more, leaving Joe blushing and unsure of her heart. Soon after, Joe accidentally triggers Wiking's fear of cats, causing him to faint. At the hospital, his painful childhood trauma is revealed. He was wrongly blamed for killing a cat, which led to deep fear and nightmares. Rumors about his mental health spread online, hurting him badly. Joe stands by him, caring for him patiently and giving him strength when he feels most vulnerable. Ning later reveals the truth that the uncle was responsible for the cat's death and begs Wiking to help his sick mother. Joe resumes Wiking's therapy, even dressing as a cat to help him face his fear. With her support, Wiking overcomes it and restores his mother as the gallery's director by transferring his shares to her. Feeling confused about love, Joe decides to go on fieldwork to clear her mind. Wiking follows her, unable to stay away. Their unresolved feelings lead to an argument where Wiking denies loving her, even though Joe admits her feelings. Regret hits him later, and he finally realizes that he truly loves Joe. After Joe returns, the doctor advises them to take a vacation together. During the trip, Wiking openly confesses his love and calls Joe his girlfriend in front of everyone, even kissing her. Though shocked, Joe asks for time to understand her feelings, and Wiking patiently agrees. Later, danger strikes when Shui plots against Ning, pushing him down a slope. Joe rushes to help but slips and falls as well, leaving the situation tense and uncertain as the story takes a dramatic turn. Ning tells Joe that someone had messaged him while pretending to be Wiking, and the person who pushed him was not Wiking. He explains that although Wiking dislikes him, he would never harm him. Realizing how much pain Wiking suffered because of him, Ning feels guilty and says he must apologize. When both Joe and Ning go missing, Wiking and his mother panic. Wiking promises to bring them back safely and starts searching. In the jungle, he finds Joe's room key and understands she came this way. He finally finds them. Faye has taken Ning away, and Wiking carries the unconscious Joe, who tells him before fainting that Ning kept calling his name. At the hospital, Ning is treated but remains unconscious. Wiking's mother arrives, and Wiking finally asks her about his father's death. He admits he remembers nothing from that day and still sees his father's dead body in his nightmares. Realizing how deeply Wiking has suffered, his mother softens and tells him his father had terminal cancer, but refused treatment because he wanted Wiking to become responsible. Though she hides the full truth, This moment brings mother and son closer. Later, in the hospital room, Viking kisses Joe, showing how important she has become to him. Wanting answers, he visits the doctor and agrees to hypnosis to recall his father's death. Under hypnosis, he relives the painful night after arguing with his father. He went drinking. When he returned, his father scolded him again, but Viking ignored him and went to sleep. Later, hearing a noise, he found himself locked inside his room. He escaped through the window and discovered blood stains everywhere, finally finding his father dead upstairs. In the present, Viking breaks down, blaming himself for not opening the door in time. Joe comforts him gently. Ning then tells Viking that his parents loved him deeply and only became distant because of misunderstandings caused by Ning himself. He apologizes sincerely, and Viking forgives him. Soon after, Viking finds a letter his father wrote for him. In it, his father explains that his strictness came from love. He wanted Viking to be strong and responsible. Though he knew Viking loved art, he believed Viking was best suited to run the company since his mother lacked business skills. He also reveals his cancer and writes that he feared not death, but losing his son. Reading this, Viking cries uncontrollably. Determined to uncover the truth, Viking travels to America to investigate his father's case. Before leaving, he tells Joe on the phone that when he returns, he wants her answer about their relationship. Around the same time, Joe learns her artwork has been accepted by a college in America, and she decides to go as well. Meanwhile, Viking discovers the shocking truth: his father was murdered during a robbery. His father was shot while trying to protect the house and even locked Viking's room to save him. This truth devastates Viking, and he remembers all the small moments he ignored, like never eating meals with his father. In his heart, he apologizes and hugs his father's memory. Wanting space, Viking tells his assistant not to share his contact details with anyone, including Joe. Joe feels hurt, thinking he is avoiding her. She continues with her plans and eventually receives a flight ticket to America sent by Viking. After reaching there, she doesn't meet him on purpose, hoping to make him feel the same pain she felt. Though Viking notices her, he avoids approaching her too. Both wait for the other to make the first move. Things change when Viking learns that his mother has handed the art gallery shares back to the uncle. He immediately returns home, and Joe is also told to come back. On their return, Joe waits outside the airport when suddenly Viking hugs her from behind, saying he missed her. She angrily asks why he avoided her if he missed her so much. He teasingly admits he knew she was following him and wanted her to come to him first. Though annoyed, Joe is overjoyed when she sees Viking calmly holding a little girl's hand, showing he has fully recovered. Viking later tries to reclaim the art gallery, but the uncle refuses. Joe and Ning step in and negotiate a deal. One day, Joe goes swimming and accidentally falls into the water. Viking jumps in to save her, reminding Joe of the past when she once saved him the same way. Pulled safely from the water, they finally kiss, sealing their feelings. Joe officially accepts his love, but reveals she's going to America for further studies. Though shocked, Viking listens as she asks if he will wait for her. With a smile, he promises to wait for her for his entire life. They kiss once more, and the drama ends on a hopeful, emotional note.